Welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast, a collection of inspiring conversations with the most interesting female entrepreneurs and small business owners. I'm your host, Lindsay White, and together with my incredible guests, we'll explore the struggles of being a female entrepreneur, the most important lessons, and the future of women leaders in business. And I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs become the calm, confident leader their team and their business really need. And that's why I've created my VIP leadership coaching program. This 3-month program is specifically designed to help high-performing women uncover their authentic leadership brand and style so they can lead more effectively in every aspect of their life and their business. If you're ready to transform your leadership, connect with me today to learn more at highvoltageleadership.ca. My guest on this week's episode is Sarah Talbert. Sarah calls herself a copy strategist, but she's really so much more than that. In fact, I would say that Sarah's a bit of a serial entrepreneur. She's written a successful travel blog, owned a bakery, traded in handcrafted baby wraps, and has an accounting background. But what she really always wanted to do was help people find their voice. Now, Sarah goes all in to help her clients find the truest expression and create the simplest, most straightforward words that connect with their audience. And as she says, I write words that just sell your stuff. Sarah's made so many interesting pivots in her entrepreneurial journey that she's learned to really let go and move forward faster and then just keep moving. Now she's focused on creating a work and life blend that includes family, fun, and connection. I know you're going to love our chat today. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to the Female Founder Friday podcast. Today, I'm really lucky to have Sarah Talbert here with me. And I think she's got a really cool story to tell us. So I'm excited to dive in. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm super glad that you could join and be a guest today. I ask all my guests this question to start with, but what's your journey been to becoming a female founder? Because I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah. So how far back do you want me to go?
Yeah.
So I guess if I think back to even high school, I kind of struggle with the idea of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be and what I wanted to create. And I wanted to really be a speech therapist and help give people their voice back. And so, but it just didn't work out with the college that I was going to go to. And so I just kind of spun the bottle on what degree I would get. And I became an accountant. Or I got a degree in accounting. I did not become an accountant. There's a huge difference there. A bookkeeper was my first hire with my business because I hate numbers. So,
right. But accounting degree makes perfect sense.
Right. So from there, I'm currently married to my middle school sweetheart. We've been together, again, I don't want to do the math, a long time. And he's a serial entrepreneur. So he's started and sold multiple businesses. But along the way, I kind of felt like I was his supportive role.
Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily his making me feel that way. It was myself.
Yeah.
I would kind of find places that needed help and kind of plug myself in. And then from there, he was for a long time, he would push and prod me. Sarah, what are you going to do? What do you want to do? I know I appreciate your help, but what do you want to do? And so I started kind of testing the waters and seeing what I was good at. I tried everything from, I had my own bakery, I had my own in-home bakery. I bought and sold or tried to start trading baby wraps from Guatemala overseas. I met with weavers there. I did travel blogging, and now I'm a copywriter. So
I love it. I mean, and first and foremost, I love that you are married to your middle school sweetheart. I mean, that's not terribly common now for people to stay together quite that long. So, I think that's really beautiful. But I also think it's really cool that your partner really wanted you to do your thing, and sounds like he was a little bit relentless in getting you to step into that female founder role.
For sure, for sure. I appreciate him for that, and he still won't let me quit. So, on days you want to quit, he's like, no, you started this for this reason. Like I said, along like back in the beginning, I wanted to do speech therapy and kind of give people their voice.
Yeah.
And so now in my writing, I like kind of that same driver is people need their voice. And so I give them that on their websites and their paper. But I appreciate how much he pushed me, for sure.
I love that. I love that there's that connection there, that you're still doing what maybe you had originally sort of intended all along. There's intention there. It's just applied in a different way. Now in your own copywriting business, you're still giving people a voice. It just looks a little different.
Correct.
That's okay. So that's a super neat connection. I love that.
Sure.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like. Like what is that all about, Sarah?
Yeah. So as a copywriter, I say you should write in like, in a way a 7 or 8 year old can read it.
Sure.
Because like, get rid of the industry words, get rid of like all the lingo. What are you really trying to say, and break it down? And so I try to practice that myself.
Yeah.
And so when I explain copywriting, I'll say, I just write words that sell your stuff. And all websites you see, they have to have someone write the words and organize them in a way that website visitors will feel at home and interested and curious enough to buy. And then I also write like emails and so forth too for certain clients for them launching a product or a service or something.
I love that. I love that. And we sort of talked about this before, but it's not one particular person or industry that you really write for. You like writing for a variety, yes?
Yes. Yeah. So the whole niche, not niche, shoot yourself in the foot, don't shoot yourself in the foot. I don't know. But I feel like it's for me, I've settled on not niching. My personality needs variety, and so I really love diving into each industry. Like I often I'll write for accountants and bookkeepers, lawyers, financial advisors, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But I also have we're creating a doll company currently. Like I'm about to start a project with that where she's kind of got this American Girl doll vibe that she's doing. So we get to write the website and that kind of stuff for that. So I feel bored if I don't have different industries.
Totally. I do. I mean, I can appreciate that the lawyers, the accountants, that kind of stuff, that might be the bread and butter. That's the stuff that keeps you going. And it's probably, there's differentiators between organizations and professionals, but like it's probably pretty similar work. And then, to be able to layer in something that's really fun and really creative and really gets your juices flowing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can appreciate you wouldn't want to give up some of those fun things just for the sake of this is my niche.
Right. Yeah. So I create a process to kind of walk people through, have a unique research service where I talk to people's ideal clients and kind of get the words and phrases they're using. Because like I said, as a copywriter, you don't want to use words that your clients or your customers really have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So when you go and you talk to your current and your past clients and kind of ask them conversational questions, then you get the words they're using when they're talking to their friends.
Yeah.
And when they're landing on your website, they go, oh, they get me. They understand what I'm saying. And so I bring that up to say it's not necessarily the niche, but it's the process that I walk people through that to me is more unique than I only work with fill in the blank.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think, and I do think, I mean, ultimately, the whole niche idea is it's supposed to help you, right? Like that is sort of the theory behind to niche or not to niche, right? But I do believe that there's a moment at which that stops being of service, right? And it, like, we get a little bit obsessive with it, especially as female entrepreneurs, small business owners. I mean, we want to know our client, we want to speak to them, right? That's what you help us do. We want to know what it is that's causing them issues and how we can really help them solve those problems. But you're right. I think we can get really too fine and far too granular with it. And we forget that they're humans, not sort of pieces of data. And I think at that point, the whole niching thing stops becoming relevant, right? It just becomes myopic. So I really love that point. I think that's a really, really great point. So tell me, and I'm sure there's some interesting stories here. Where have you, like, with all of the journeys that you've had in your female founder career, where have you made some mistakes or missteps, and what have you learned from those?
Yeah, this is always a fun question. I think having a mindset around each pivot that I made, like from being here and looking back,
Yeah.
I kind of beat myself up over it. But looking back, it was like, that was just kind of putting me on the right track, not taking me off the right track. And I think even now, when I like coming off this whole niche or not niche idea, like now you move on faster and go, oh, why did I sit there so long? Or, so it's a matter of being able to look back and go, it wasn't a mistake. I think you and I had said something about mistake. It's not like, that might be too harsh of a word, but I think it's how fast can we learn from that so we can keep going.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
No, it does. And I absolutely love it. I mean, the word, I maybe have to change that word, because mistake makes you think like you've totally screwed. And to be fair, I mean, some of the women I interview on this show are like, oh yeah, I totally screwed that up. That was terrible. Right? Nobody else do this, right? It's like a warning. There should be a label. But for so many of us, I think you're right. We label it mistake, and then our judge saboteur just, how could you be so stupid? How could you screw that up? Blah, blah. That's your saboteur. The truth is, life is about making mistakes and experimenting and exploring and then learning. Right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And can I share a second mistake?
Of course you can. Absolutely.
But I was thinking about, because my husband, he's currently a marine contractor, so he has a local business with a crew of guys. And so there's still some pieces in that I help with, and then I have my own business, and then we have 3 kids. And then all the other side things, right?
Yeah.
But I think the mistake lies currently, one I'm working through, is having a life outside of business. It's like, I feel like my world gets so small where I'm talking with him about work, or he's talking with me about work, or we're talking with our kids about work. And I'm finding taking a step outside of that, in like going for a boat ride because we live in Florida, or doing things and not talking about work, I come back with all these creative ideas. It was something that I was trying to push for to get this idea, sitting at a laptop or talking through it. Sometimes you just gotta let your brain take a break and go play.
I love that. I think that is beautiful, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because you're right. We get so head down in our own business, and particularly because we're working in our homes. You have a partner who is also an entrepreneur, and it sounds like you still have some involvement in his business as well. Like, man, that is like all consuming, right? And you could
Yep.
really let it be if you wanted to.
We have to, we talk, we have regular conversations about how to keep the conversation at the dinner table minimal about business, and like
Yeah.
the kids have a life too,
Right.
and like I need to make sure I have a life that I can talk about something else, or
Totally.
we make sure we schedule regular date nights just so we can talk about something other than work, or
Yeah.
just putting in some things in the calendar to make sure I do have wine night with the girls, or something,
Yeah.
like some kind of something where work is not even thought about.
Yeah.
Then it allows me to come back and just be a better creative.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really love that point, is when we can step away and leave it behind, it does give our brain better space, and we do become more creative, and we have, right? Like just getting outside. And that's, that's not always possible, but and I talk a lot about work and life blend. And I think what you're saying is, so yeah, I don't believe in work-life balance. I think that's bullshit, right? Like, you no sooner find the balance between your work and your life, and the school calls and your kids throwing up, or your vendor calls and the shipment's or the client calls and they've got a complaint or an emergency. Like, you can't stay in that space of equilibrium. You have to blend it and integrate it together. But what I'm hearing from you is actually a bit the opposite, which is we're so blended. Our work and our life is so closely intertwined. To create the great blend, I got to step outside to be creative, to be me, right? To just be you, and just be Sarah, and just, be who you need to be.
For sure. For sure.
I love that. I love that sort of different angle on work-life blend. That's super cool.
Yeah. Well, I like that phrase. I'm going to have to use that more.
Yeah.
The blend versus balance. I think that's, because that would describe my life a lot better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, like the ins and outs, the ups and downs, I like to say the ebb and flow. Yeah. Right? Because I think for a lot of female entrepreneurs, a lot of the women that listen to this show, our work and our life is very closely intertwined. We're very passionate about what we do. We do it because we really love it. So, but you're right. We got 1,000 other things we're accountable for, right? Including, kids, partners, friends. We're sisters. We're nieces. We're BFFs. And there are days when sometimes the work's got to take a little bit more precedent. And then there's times when our kids do, and times when our girlfriend needs us, or times when our sister isn't well and we got to go help her with her kids. Or, I mean, I could go on for hours about a gajillion things.
Like, that's not hard to come up with, the things.
I can think of 15 different things I needed to do just today, right? But if we try and always have things in balance, it just leaves us feeling like we're constantly stressed out and exhausted. When we can blend it, I think we can be more flexible. We can have that flow, and we can feel good about, hey, my sister needs some help today, or my husband needs me to do a little more in his business instead of mine, or okay. Yeah, I love it. I like I said, I don't believe in work-life balance, and I hate that so many experts talk only about that, right?
As much as I love and respect my husband, I think a lot of that comes from men. Just has to. The work-life balance of, like, you can section this and you can section this, and I can't. You just can't. I can't.
Well, and when some people are like, your husband may be a bit more of a linear thinker. And so they can section or compartmentalize. And that's not that there aren't women that can do that too. But for so many of us, it's far more about juggling a bunch of balls than it is about putting balls in boxes.
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So
We have to keep them in the air
yeah,
versus just organize them.
just exactly. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
great visual. I
Yeah.
love that. Um, and I also love that that's such a great, something to offer, the audience in terms of, you know, a learning, right? That it doesn't have to be
Yeah, for sure.
sectioned, organized, structured. Yeah.
Put in a box.
No, totally not. Okay, so let me ask you this. What does, what does being a leader mean to you? What does leading mean? What is that?
Oh, it's a big word, is my first thought. I So like I said, I'm thinking back to the beginning of our conversation where my husband's the serial entrepreneur and he has the vision and he's always got big ideas
Yeah.
and always like vision leading, and I'm content to be the follower, like typically.
Yeah.
But with his challenge, it's been, no, you are the leader. Like, and so there's been a lot over the last decade, I guess, of thinking through how to step into leadership. And like my team and stuff talks about, like, yes, you are leading and you are doing the leadership pieces. And, but I guess to me in my head, I'm dancing around I'm going to come full circle. I do the thing, I do the leading, but it's a piece that I haven't always wanted to own, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know what? It does make sense. And that's sort of what I was hearing, as you said, as you kind of tap danced around it, is that you don't really see yourself necessarily as a leader. Did I get that right?
So in the last couple of years, multiple friends have made me own this piece of it. But for a while, it was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm worthy enough to be a leader. I don't know if I should be a leader.
Right.
There's other people that are better at being leaders. But I think a lot of it came down to, like, you have these gifts and you have these abilities and you need to be supporting other people to come alongside you and walk the journey.
Yeah.
But it's been a mindset thing in my own head,
Yeah.
to work through. But I would say I would say that what I would say a good leader or leadership looks like is kind of representing and replicating where you want your team and where you want your people to be, versus that whole like manager or boss just kind of pointing out, like directing, do this, do that. But it's more of we're side by side in this, and I'm kind of like taking the next steps or showing the direction and showing where to go versus pointing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, you know what? I actually really love your perspective on this. And I love this element. A lot of the guests that I have on the show are very much present in their leadership. And I love that you sort of bring along this journey that you have had, almost growing into the leadership. Is that, you're nodding? So that's sort of the right way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think a lot of women don't believe that they can lead, right? Or they just don't see themselves in that way.
I needed the permission, I guess.
Yeah.
To, like, it's good for you to be a leader.
Yeah.
Instead of it having any kind of negative, I don't know if it was even negative. It was more of, I just don't know if I can or should do this. But yeah, it was permission that what you're doing is leadership. Now own it and step into it.
I love that. And I've said in the past, like, if you if you are an entrepreneur and you have like even one person working with you, whether they're an employee or a contractor, you are a leader. Like whether you like it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you own it or not, you are a lead. The truth is, as mothers and wives, we are leaders in our families. We're leaders in our communities. Often we lead in our friend groups, right? We just don't call it that. We don't identify with it. But we are, aren't we?
Yep, for sure. And so that was kind of the place I was. I was like denying that I had some team members. I had them, but I was denying I was leading them. It was more like, this is our group project and we'll like,
right.
And so a lot of my friends were like, no, you are the leader. Own it. You're doing it anyway. People need a leader to follow, and you're a good one. So like, let's make more good leaders to follow instead of hiding in the shadows, I guess.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that you really just had to figure out what your authentic leadership looked like. Yeah. I think that's actually key. I think that's key, because we're not all gonna be like your husband who's got the vision, got the drive, gonna make it happen, go. I'm sure he's a super dynamic guy.
Yeah.
We're not all gonna lead that way. So it sounds like you've really uncovered what works for you and how you lead. How would you describe that? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I feel like for me, I need to do more work, and this kind of plays into the way I work in my copywriting business too, is I need a decent amount for my copywriting business, I call it research, but I need a decent amount of understanding about where I want to lead. And I think that's the piece that may come more natural for other people, where once I have the vision, I'm really good to go and I'm good to lead and I'm good to direct or whatever that is. But for me, it took a while to understand I need to take the time for me to understand what my vision actually is, rather than beating myself up for, I don't have the vision yet. I guess I'm not a leader. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's really insightful. I really like that. Knowing that you just need a bit more time and space, and to work through that in a bit of a different way than maybe others would, so that you can get your own head around it. And then you can lead confidently from that space.
Correct. And I used to think it was a confidence issue, that was maybe why I can't lead this team, or I can't lead side by side with my husband. But it was more like, I just need to get all the gaps in my head filled in to figure out where the next steps are. And then I can take my stance.
Yeah.
And then I can lead.
I love it. I love that you have uncovered what's authentic for you in terms of your leadership style. Because I really do believe that that's important, because I think the first and foremost, we have to lead from within, right? We have to know who we are as a leader. We have to be able to confidently own that. Then we can decide how we're going to operate as a leader in all the other places in our life. But if we don't kind of have our own stuff figured out first, that's
and
super
entrepreneurship will do that to you,
right?
Totally. Make you figure out all your stuff.
Well, it does. I mean, it definitely puts you in some hot water. And I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said women are like tea bags. You never know how strong they are until you put them in boiling water. And that's the truth. Being an entrepreneur, being a female founder, that's the boiling water, right? So every day is a test. Every day is a test. Every day is a journey. Every day is a trial. And you come away, sometimes kind of exhausted, but you always learn something. That
Mhm.
much is for sure. Well, Sarah, that's just brilliant. Thank you so much for these beautiful insights, because I think that this has really been a really interesting conversation to dig into what makes you really, really powerful as a leader.
Yeah, it's been nice to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you.
To everyone tuning in today, thank you so much for listening to the Female Founder Friday podcast. I love Sarah's message that we just need to get out and play so we can recharge and re-energize our creativity. I know I need to do more of that. You can find out more about Sarah and what she does on her website, sarahtalbert.com. And of course, you can find me on Instagram at High Volt Leadership. The Female Founder Friday podcast has a goal to impact 1,000 listeners, and it would mean the world to me if you left this episode a 5-star review and shared it with all of your friends. Let's engage 1,000 female entrepreneurs and amplify the message. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca.